Hello, my name is Andrew, you can call me Cookies, and today we are taking a look at each of the boss encounters within the dungeon The Other Side, and figuring out how to play them as a healer. The first boss we will go over is Hakar, the Soul Flayer, which appears to be a pretty hectic fight, but when breaking the mechanics down, it's pretty straightforward. When the boss reaches 100 energy, he will cast Blood Barrier. This is where you should be utilizing defensive and external cooldowns on yourself and other players in your group. The less damage your group takes from this ability, the less punishing the ability is. Other than this, stay spread out from other players when you are afflicted by the Corrupted Blood debuff, and be sure to utilize crowd control and damage to help lock down the Son of Hakar adds, which will fixate onto random players and deal group-wide damage every few seconds with their Blood Nova cast. Next up is the Mana Storms, which rotate in and out of the fight to change up the mechanics a bit based on which boss is currently active. When Millhouse is active, small arcane pillars will spawn, which will need to be intercepted by players. The player intercepting the beam will gain a stacking damage buff in return for a moderate damage intake that the beam will deal to the player, so be sure to keep these players topped off and try to allow your DPS players to soak the beams before you decide to do it. The major ability to be prepared for as a healer is Diabolical Doom, which will deal an ever-increasing amount of damage every second to the party until Millhouse becomes inactive, so be sure to have healing cooldowns and defensives ready for this portion of the fight. When Maleficent becomes the active boss, you'll want to keep the tank topped off during Buzzsaw, which deals a heavy amount of damage over 3 seconds. During the downtime between Buzzsaw cast, you should be running around the room and disabling the experimental squirrel bombs that occasionally get sent out away from the boss's location. Lastly, Maleficent will call down an aerial rocket chicken barrage, which will deal heavy group-wide damage, so be sure to keep everyone topped off and use defensives or healing cooldowns that you have left over as you need to here. The third boss we will cover is Dealer Zyexxa. Arcane Lightning is a moderately ticking dot that applies to a random player at first, dealing damage every 3 seconds for a total of 9 seconds until jumping to the next closest player. Be sure that the debuff is not bouncing between the same 2 players back and forth, otherwise they will continue to take more and more damage from the ability with each new bounce. As you can see in the clip shown here, the Paladin tank and the Death Knight DPS are the only ones being affected by the debuff since we are not moving in close enough to them, causing them to take a heavy amount of damage throughout the entirety of the fight. Other than this, dodge the swirlies and beams throughout the fight, and step on the displacement traps to launch yourself into the air when the boss casts Explosive Contravance, and also use these traps when you are affected by localized Explosive Contravance, which will be indicated with a bomb over your head. Last up is Muzala, who will occasionally apply Cosmic Artifice to all players. Try to be near the edges of the room before dispelling or allowing this debuff to time out, as it will take up encounter space when you are attempting to dodge the 3 main strikes that the boss will do during the Master of Death cast, which are all dodgeable. Next, when Shadow Reality is being cast, use one of the portals along the edges of the encounter space to head to one of the 4 locations that has a Shattered Visage ad. Help DPS it and don't worry about healing during this phase. When you're brought back to the boss, the fight repeats itself, and that's it. This covers all the bosses within the Other Side. Like the video if you found it useful, and let me know which boss is your favorite in the instance. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.